to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Alexandra.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I were aspiring writers, but we had a problem. We never actually took the time to sit down and write.
Exactly. So instead of, solving the problem by simply writing, we decided to work around the problem and issue a challenge. Each week, you sit down for 30 minutes and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words for our enjoyment.
For our enjoyment. That's why I do this podcast. Then we come on the podcast, we read a story, we talk about what we can learn from reading it, and then we talk about stories sent in by you wonderful listeners.
100% no cap, all facts.
Doof Media.
Doof Media. We're here to help you do the right thing, guys.
It's fine. Look, we were having a good time before this. We're still a bit discombobulated in general. You're like in the middle of a movie, aren't you?
Yes, I am in the middle of moving out. In fact, I have to move out this Sunday, which means I have 4 days left to pack up my entire life and put it in storage.
Sick.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pretty fun. I know there was some glow paint on our walls that we had to scrub off.
I remember you telling me about this.
Yes, and also paint over because that glow paint does not come off.
Yeah.
But it was very fun. It was kind of indie, painting over those old paintings that like all of my friends put up, and just going back in time and really thinking over those really fun moments that we had in that living room. So yeah, it's bittersweet to say the least.
Yeah, I bet. It's also very stressful, which is why this episode is 1 day late. I'm also still. You could definitely say I'm in the middle of moving. I sleep on the floor on a mattress, and I'm the only one in the house, and there's like nothing else in the house. It's not great for my brain that I just stay in this empty house all day.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I'll eventually get better. Look, when I do get better, I'm going to be a fucking badass. I'm going to be on top of the world. I'm going to rule it. I'm going to become Emperox, okay? But
Emperox.
in the meantime, I'm very useless right now. But I'm doing this podcast. That's something. A feather in my cap.
But we're both in the middle of moving. But I know, like, y'all's whole moving situation is a little, I guess, strange. Do you want to go into that?
Not exactly, but okay. We're in a little bit of a limbo where the old house is not sold yet. My mom's getting weird ideas about what we're going to do with the new house. It's also a weird house. The bedrooms have fan switches, but don't have fans. The microwave is on the floor. Yeah, it's like knee high. There's one Ethernet plug in the whole house. There's also the weird empty hollow cube that just juts into my house that has a window on the outside, but is completely inaccessible. So it's weird. Also, 2 people have told me that this place is haunted. I haven't noticed anything, but they've said it.
Yeah.
So,
it looks like this place could definitely be like the ground floor to a haunted mansion.
I certainly would not mind. Well, anyway, let's get into the actual episode. What are the words this week, Jarvis?
Thank you so much for asking. The words for this week were relationship, rebellion, axis, and transaction.
And this week, we're going to be reading a poem, actually, by ExCaliburn. So this is a kind of interesting submission. I want to talk about it before we get into it. They submitted a picture because they did it by hand, and there was sort of these... Like the image of it mattered in it, which is actually pretty common for poetry.
Yeah.
So in the poem, which they decorated very nicely with these like embellishments, they added these sort of like diamond shapes of 4 dots and also these normal dots to indicate where there are pauses, with single dots being a short pause and the full dots being a long pause. It kind of basically does the same sort of effect as just commas and line breaks. And when they transcribed it, because I can't read cursive and a lot of other people can't,
me neither.
They basically did the same thing. So I'm looking forward to reading it. And then actually later on, they did a full-on calligraphy version, and it's very, 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 very good looking. So good job, ExCaliburn, on the visual aspects.
And I'm really excited to talk about it, read it, and get into it.
So without further ado, I'm going to read this short poem. I muse upon the Muses. Melit guides me as I meander. Upon her axis I spin. In rebellion I obstruct. In compliance I repeat. To Arato I am escorted. She makes my mind manifest. I train at her task by a transaction. For comment and critique, I hesitantly confer the same.
All right, cool. So yeah, I mean, I really do enjoy not only the form of this poem, but also, you know, the content itself. I think the very first line sort of summarizes the entire piece. Basically, I muse upon the Muses. You know, as we see later, there are two different Muses that are being referenced. But yeah, I definitely think that, you know, this does deserve a line by line breakdown. I like that there are a lot of pieces of parallelism in this. Also, you know, with it just having a really nice flow, and it being written in a way that, I don't know, really sort of allows you to dig deeper than the surface level within this.
Yeah, so we we started off before this actually starting to dig into it to try to get the meaning, because we didn't want to be silly on here and just flounder about. But then actually the floundering about was actually kind of interesting as we figured out what the poem was about. So yeah, so I thought it would be a cool idea if we would go through it line by line and just kind of show how you analyze a poem like this.
Yeah. So I guess starting from the first line, as I said, I muse upon the Muses. I do like how Muse and Muses of course are the same word, but they harbor different meaning. Muse means to wonder, think, ponder. Muses is basically harkening back to the 9 Muses of course.
Yeah, the basically, I think in this and in other things is just creativity, sort of what inspiration comes from. The next line is Melit guides me as I meander. So Melit is one of the Muses. Which one is she? I had it open. Melit is, here it is. She's one of the ones before the 9 Olympian Muses. She's the muse of thought and meditation, and Melit means ponder and contemplation. So
okay, so it's pretty much saying a lot of the same of the first line,
but in a different way, which is, I think,
basically
what poetry's kind of for. It's
upon her axis I spin.
Yeah, so in both, I think this is about contemplation and just thinking and wondering is how they're getting to be inspired. At least that's how they're working through here. In rebellion I obstruct, and I'm going to go through the next couple lines. It's actually, I think those 4 can be put together. That goes, upon her axis I spin, in rebellion I obstruct, in compliance I repeat, to Arato I am escorted. That same, like you said before, the parallelism. And this is where we can talk a little bit about punctuation, where those commas are used in the same, place in the phrase, creating that parallelism.
Yeah, and I do really like how so going back to in rebellion I obstruct, this could be talking about that sort of writer's block, the rebellion against art within itself, and sort of, I guess, finding your own path that's maybe off of the beaten path. You are obstructing from the main canon. In compliance I repeat. I kind of see this as because I'm thinking of it from a writing perspective of course, but this can of course cross over into multiple genres. But I see this as going as after you are finding your own beaten path, you're coming back to the main canon and sort of mimicking the art that has come before, in a sense.
Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting. I was having trouble understanding the line, but that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. So basically this main canon that you are trying to work against, maybe trying to come up with your own idea, something that hasn't been done before, and finding no luck in that, you then are just satisfied with working what has come before and repeating that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like repeating a form, maybe. So the next line is, to Arato I am escorted. So, of course, we had to Google who Arato is. Arato is one of the 9 muses of music, and also some other things like erotic poetry, mimes, dance. So Arato, she makes my mind manifest. That's the next line. So I think... the way I read it was that listening to music as a source of inspiration created that inspiration, the manifesting. And then the last 3 lines are kind of together, I think. I train at her task by a transaction. For comment and critique, I hesitantly confer the same. So this connected to me right before when in the middle of analyzing it before, which I think is I kind of wish I captured it on the podcast, because that's what they're doing right now for comment and critique and conferring the same. They posted their poem on the Do the Right Thing subreddit comment. So
yeah. So like, would you say that this poem is a bit meta, basically?
Yeah. I think I think it is about about posting on here. I also see another parallel, but I don't know. It because we're talking about ourselves, I'm nervous too. But Erato, if a stretch of it being music, but I mean, you listen to podcasts, so that is our task.
So
the transaction.
Erato. So we are errata.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, like overall, I see it as this is the process of writing, right? How you are musing on muses, how you are pondering the vast well of creativity, how you are meandering on previous works that your mind might get wrapped in. And when you are trying to break from the main canon, you are sort of charting your own path, but that's not always the easiest to do, especially in a given time limit. So you are willing to repeat while also giving up your work for that comment and critique.
Like the repeating, I think, is interesting, because I think you're right that there is that parallelism, and maybe that's that repetition, the same sort of sound over and over. I'm wondering one angle that I'm really bad at, so I don't even really want to try, because I feel like I always get it wrong. I don't have a good handle on it, but looking at the it's not pentameter. Pentameter is a kind of this thing. What's it called?
Yeah.
The meter. That's what it is.
Yeah, the meter.
It would be interesting to look at the meter for this, but I'm not good at that. So I don't want to. But another angle that we can look at is there any rhyming in this? I feel like there is.
Let me see. Repeat, manifest, no, transaction, critique, use.
Is there any?
I don't really see any.
Okay. Then maybe it is just the meter that I noticed with "She makes my mind manifest." Maybe it was just the alliteration of "makes my mind manifest." that
I think that's it, because there is like a lot of alliteration throughout. I mean, going from the very first paragraph, and in fact, almost like every other one does have some sort of alliteration, which is a really good tool, especially when you're trying to create a flow within your piece. And I mean, this piece definitely has a really, really solid flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it does, like, I think with the parallelism in the middle, there ends up being like a lot of pauses, but I think that's sort of maybe the point. Maybe that is how... there's another poem that we analyzed in my intro to literary analysis that was basically like the way that you read it, if you were to read it out loud, makes it sound very clunky and clashy, and that was kind of the point. And so when I'm writing something, I definitely have parts where I pause a lot, or I write in these very, very short bursts. So I can almost picture ExCaliburn like actually writing these 4 lines and doing it in those small bursts. Upon her access, I spin. In rebellion, I obstruct. In compliance, I repeat. And sort of like figuring your way through. So I think that's interesting as a way to like the very feeling of saying the poem, which is done through these pauses, sort of conveys that same feeling, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do notice though, in those 3 lines that it's like upon her access all the way down to in compliance. I do notice that that the ends, like I spin, I obstruct, I repeat. The very last one does not have a comma before it, and I'm wondering if that was intentional for the reading or what.
I think they might not be, because I'm looking at the picture that they did, and I'm looking at their pauses. Yeah. So because I did notice the same thing, and I was curious, so I went to check. Yeah, they do have the pauses that I think ExCaliburn translated into commas. In compliance does have a little pause, and then tu Rato has a pause after it too. So, but I did notice that also, and I went to check.
Okay, yeah. Then yeah, I mean, I just really like that section, because I feel that for the majority of this, there really isn't too much uniformity, which of course is on purpose. But those 3 lines, which really do sort of inform the rest of the reading, what is coming before and after, do have a really strong uniformity to it. So I just thought that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went through and I was counting some of the syllables. I don't think there's really a pattern. Like the last 4 lines that I was counting are like 7, 10, 6, 5 or something. So I think that we can rule that out as like an intentional route for meaning. But I think you could also still, if you wanted to, you could still analyze that, because whether or not it was intentional, there still is like an effect coming across. And I think that sort of exploration that this, I'm guessing, is ExCaliburn, writing for Do the Right Thing, experimenting, right? I think that also carries across in that, with not paying attention to meter this time because it's distracting and probably difficult to keep in mind. And so focusing on other things to experiment with.
Yeah, definitely. Well, all right. Is there anything else you want to ponder or muse on when it comes to this poem?
I think that's all I've got. I really liked it, and I liked exploring it. I think that's a fun thing. So
definitely,
thanks for submitting a poem.
Thank you for submitting. I also definitely want to. I just feel that I really appreciate what you've been doing these last couple of weeks. You've definitely just been coming with some really different and very interesting takes and poems, and I just really have enjoyed getting that change of pace. So of course, thank you very much for submitting your stories.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the listener submitted story section.
Of course. So, this is the main attraction of this podcast. If Do the Right Thing was Disney World, this would be the Tower of Terror.
Is that the main attraction of Disney World?
I don't know. I've never been, but I'm just guessing.
I've never heard of the Tower of Terror.
The Tower of Terror? I'm pretty sure it is a old ride that was based off of the Haunted Mansion, or maybe I'm getting it twisted.
I don't know.
I'm probably getting it twisted.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I don't know.
yeah. But so the stories we are going to be talking about this week are by Jarby Jazz, Flower Priest, Blaury345, Pure Agolas, and Calinero985.
All right, let's get into it.
Yep. So the first story up this week is by Jarby Jazz with Life to Death, Healing 2, ?
It's funny. So that's that series that they're continuing where SD and Captain Harris were investigating this necromancer. Last time we were in SD's head as they just killed a necromancer and it just came back to life at the end. And so in this one, we continue from there, where this ghoul seems very dangerous at first, but it actually does talk, and SC loses all her fear of death that she had, just for a moment. And it asks for water because it needs help. And she gets water, and then we get to this part 2, so there's this space in between the sections where this undead Miranda, the necromancer they just killed, drinks and then just talks normally, totally fine. They just were dehydrated because that's what happens with this process. And they basically just have a normal talk with Captain Harris being very wary, while SD and Harris sort of just talk about how this necromancy works and how she's being brought back to life, and how it's not really that bad. It's not really even that big a deal.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this entry is definitely working on the divide that we saw between Captain Harris and SD and the previous ones. I also really do enjoy how this sort of world building is, of course, going deeper, but we're also seeing a very interesting scene of this ghoul has been using this sort of death magic on their selves, and there's sort of this half and half thing. And yeah, I just think that that's really cool, especially based off of what we have seen from this world previously. I do like how it's sort of adding on top of itself within this entry to really allow us to get even deeper into this world. I am looking forward to seeing where it does go from here. I am surprised that this Captain Harris is as reserved in this scene, especially since in the previous entry, I think he was really ready to fucking blast off.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting. I think Jarby Jazz is sort of writing around what maybe was not as intentional for it to be so aggressive originally, and so now they're just sort of dealing with what they wrote before, I think, and bringing it back more to a normal, but still having this thing in the text that makes it weirder, right? So I think that's interesting how Jarby Jazz is adapting to their own writing. I would say, don't be afraid to what's it called?
Retroactively?
Change something retroactively, but there's a retcon. That's the word, retcon.
Retcon, yes.
So don't be afraid to retcon things if you just feel like it. If you want to write the next scene and being oh, actually he just hit her and she didn't die, or even imply a whole scene that we haven't seen, he cut her and didn't mean to kill her, but then she did anyway, and it's a good thing that she came back to life, and etc. you don't have to. This is just a random suggestion. And in fact, I like how it's going right now. I just mean, don't be afraid to, because it's your writing. And if you were to like publish this, you would be doing that, right? So, you can edit however you want. But anyway, I like where the plot is going, where like these characters are going and how they talk and how SC is sort of relating to this necromancer. I do think the cut from this undead woman that's like very scary looking and ghoulish, talking with like, "I'll be good," which is like very monstrous. Just need a drink of water. It was very abrupt, but I think that's probably just part of the writing process of figuring out, oh, actually, I don't want to do it this way.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as you said, this is all definitely a blank canvas. So if you want to take your story in a completely new direction, don't be afraid to not have it match up to previous continuities. Especially since this isn't a published work. This isn't on like a forum as a part of like a web serial or something. So yeah, just the beauty of this is that you have the utmost freedom in taking this story where you want it to go, no matter what we say.
Yeah, and I think this is a good direction.
Definitely. Well, all right. Up next is by Flower Priest with Sympathy.
So this is set in that same world with I think it's not necessarily relevant for this, but it is set in some other stories that they've written, including one that we read last week, actually. So Lilla, she's happy that she's no longer being recognized on the street in the city, and she's gone to this tea shop where her brother shows up. And they haven't talked in a very long time, and they clearly have a very different relationship with their parents, and so that sort of comes out over time, where the brother is almost like disowned, and as we talk, we sort of figure out what's been going on, and I like how it's subtly brought up. But Trevor was kicked out of the family for being, I think, gay, and Lilla was sort of raised as an only child almost. But Trevor sort of reveals a secret that he has, or that he thinks is true about their family, that actually they were raised to be like prostitutes after moving, like high class ones, and that's why they are good at performing and all these other things, because, and he's discovered that because he does porn, and is wrestling with that sort of the things associated with that. So just like this really complex exploration of their relationship and relationship with their family, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think that this story has really good control over its characters, and I think that their relationship is not only believable, but we can also understand the distance that they have towards each other, and I think that that's of course something really hard to make, and I think it's really portrayed really well here. Also, I do like the moments that they're both going on about how they were raised, and like sort of speculating about the whole reason as to why they were here. And yeah, I just think that this is just a really nice scene, and it's really sort of hammering in these two characters that we've both seen in previous entries. So I mean, overall, like really, really strong stuff here. And I think, this relationship is definitely something that I wouldn't mind seeing something further from it, maybe something with a bit more tension or stakes maybe, but like as is, I think that this is a really strong scene that you have created, so really great job.
I think it stands on its own, but I think even expanding this out further is certainly possible into a longer conversation. This is not necessary, but just it's possible. But I don't have a critique ready for it. But I did like the thing I like the most is sort of the slow reveal of the shared information they have that doesn't feel.
It's not hand-fisted.
Yeah, it doesn't even feel like it's supposed to be slow and hidden, but it is, and I think it's done in a good way. So, like it's these sort of innocuous comments that we don't go into, but we sort of get a clue. And like when Trevor says, "Mom's an expert at pretending something doesn't exist," when it suits her, and so we get a clue of like, oh, maybe Mom's been ignoring him. So
he's not a fan.
But yeah, that's what I have for this story.
Yeah. But thank you very much to Flower Priest. And up next is by Blari345 with a delayed relationship.
So we have this character Lucy at this video screen with this pirate ship showing up to, I think, dock at the station that she's in charge of, I believe. And Lauren shows up, someone that she's related, she has a relationship with, of some sort anyway. There's this 4-second delay in their conversation, so every single like line back and forth, there's these pauses. But Lauren shows up wearing this eye patch that she points out is not even like real. It's just like a code for like I guess the video screen, which is just funny. But Lucy's very nervous, I think, of Lauren's pirate ship not working or not like being accepted for some reason. And so eventually they do get the permission to dock and it's okay, but it's a nervous thing and that they're going to have a date later.
I really do enjoy this story. I like the form, how we are getting these texts of whatever's on the transmission. I think it's a really nice addition, and it is sort of setting up this the pacing of this story. And I also do like how there are moments when we are inside of Lucy's head. I think it's a really nice touch that definitely sort of colors the rest of the world. And on top of that, there's some really cool world building happening here in the and not only the dialogue, but also in Lucy's narration of this, or I guess the narration of the story. But yeah, I mean, overall, I do really believe the connection between these two characters, and it does a pretty decent job of setting up the tension that we should be feeling as they are going to a dock. So overall, it's a really solid story.
Yeah, I definitely was confused a couple times on not just who was speaking, but like who was in the pirate ship and who was in the... Like, at first I thought Lucy was the one in the pirate ship until Lauren showed up with the eye patch. And then even for a minute there, I thought that Lauren was like this is like a pirate cove or something. So, yeah, I was a bit confused on who was in what. I think also with these pauses, I like that they're there. But I think they could have been used a little bit more effectively. Like, what is happening in these 4 seconds in between each one? What was it like when they just have to stare at each other? For 4 seconds. And like, do they talk over each other and things like that? So, I think there's a good space here to add some more turns in how the relationship works and how this interaction works, and how does this relate to how they are in person, how their relationship is overall.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, as is, I think it's a really great starting point for maybe a deeper story to come. But all right, up next is by Pure Agalos with Shadow Figures Snippet.
Thanks for joining us, Paragolis. I'm wondering where you heard about the podcast. That would be something I would love to know.
Who's telling you about this?
So this follows Jade, who's going down the street, and she's pondering. She's part of this magical organization, which is fundamentally the acronym is MADJI, so MADJI. It's funny. It's cute. I like it. But she's been offered a sort of promotion or of some sort, whether it's actually with the Magi or with a rebellion that she's actually helping out. I don't think we know right away. Do we actually know right away? I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, she spots a cafe and goes into it and realizes that the cafe is warded to keep magic users out like herself. And so this is like a place where she's not supposed to be welcome, except like she's actually helping the rebellion, but how are they supposed to know that? So there's that little conflict there. There's a moment of awkwardness when she interacts with the cashier, but it turns out fine. And then after this sort of this interaction, she realizes that yes, she's ready for the next level, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, this is a story that's really ripe with this world building. I too love this sort of acronym. I think it's it's really well placed. It feels a bit like a mixture of course, like in world reasoning, but also from a meta perspective. It's just really fun. But yeah, overall, I just really do enjoy this scene, and I enjoy the world building that you are setting up. So really great job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a good start of an exploration. I think the interaction at the end, I feel like could have had a bit more meaning, but I'm betting that Paragolos was sort of experimenting with writing in the first place, and this is kind of just where it went. But that said, like, this, like, even the moment with a cashier can be expanded or can be cut out, right? If it wasn't, like, for example, what happens in this scene is basically, she goes up there and it's, like, a bit awkward where she has to, like, pretend to be someone else a little bit, and it still doesn't, like, the cashier still doesn't, like, care about her, right? Mm-hmm. And that can kind of be summed up in, like, one paragraph. She went up and tried to pretend that she was like a happy person or whatever, and the cashier was not impressed or something. So you can cut things out as you wish. You know, I had a thing where for a long time it was really hard for me to skip over anything. Like I felt like I had to write anytime anyone went from one place to another, but you can just cut, you know?
Yeah, like a film.
Exactly. And it's okay. But anyway, that's not like it's just a suggestion of something that you can try in the future. But I do like the world building. I like this character that's being made here in this sort of conflict that they have. What is the next story?
Yep, so the last story we will be talking about this week is by Calinero985 with a width of Tales and Trees.
Yeah, so this is a really good story. I'm pretty sure Calinero985 is writing this for the Do the King Thing contest, which is actually, I think, why we did not choose to read it for this week, because I think it is, like, polished for that reason. I think that probably would have been fair to people who wrote it only in 30 minutes, right? That said, there's a thing I want to talk about a little bit later about how we might change a little bit how we're choosing the stories, but but this is a very good polished story, and I highly recommend y'all read it. And I'm pretty sure when the Do the King Thing voting starts, it'll be available for to be voted on. But so we have all these lumberjacks in this bar. We take the time to describe each and every one, right? And there's this old man named Wade, who's the storyteller. And he starts telling this story, and we get some more interaction with who these lumberjacks are and what kind of camaraderie they have, and how there's been less lumberjacks recently. Like, they've been going away, or there's just been less, and so the atmosphere is a little tense in their lives. But Wade tells the story of a family that lived in the woods. Actually, I don't want to just tell the whole story again, but the story about this boy left in the woods and presumably faces a monster, and it's unclear if when the boy comes back, if it is a monster who became a boy or a boy who became a monster. And it like the boy doesn't even know himself. And so the story ends, and the lumberjacks say something something funny to break the tension before they finally go home all drunken. But one of the lumberjacks who we have been introduced to a bit, Clay, talks to Wade afterwards, talking about how that's not how the story actually ends. That the boy, but that's where we get whether it was a monster or not, and that when he came back with all the food, actually what Wade meant was that he figured out how to eat, so presumably eating people. And then Clay says, "I thought it was only me," and Wade says, "No, there's more of us than you think." And we get the implication, oh, these are both man-eating monsters. But maybe they're relatable. Who knows? So it's interesting.
Maybe they're just like us.
It's a great spooky story. Oh gosh, I spoiled the whole thing, didn't I? Maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know how to handle that.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's submitted, and we spoiled everything else that we talked about.
Yeah, but it's in the Do the King Thing contest. So it's like, I don't know, maybe someone reads this, they want to get the enjoyment as much, and then they wouldn't vote for it. I think that's...
Well, I mean, either way, this story definitely requires a good read on your own. I think that not only does it have a really great control of these characters, but they're also so believable, you know, like, and I loved how this scene is really being set up, like in the very first few paragraphs, you know, we're getting stuff about the season, about the place that they're in, Oregon, about like just how it feels to be here, which I think is a really great lead-in to not only this sort of band of drunken lumberjacks, but also this story that Wade does tell. And I think that the way that the story is handled is really nice. I mean, it isn't just a block of text of this person talking. There's a lot of back and forth between Wade telling this story and other people sort of interjecting. And I think it's just really handled really well. So yeah, I mean, there's so many good things I can say about this story, but I think overall, just please go and read this story. It's really solid.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how Calinero uses tropes to tell the story, right? Like, this is a scene that we've seen before, and I think Calinero definitely knows that, right? And that's why they're setting it in here, with that old man telling the story and the people interjecting and whatnot. And I think it's a good choice to choose a recognizable trope like that. I also think it's interesting, and this is like a fairly common one, of just like a scary story being about a scary story, you know? Yeah. I think it's cool. So, and I also like how that twist ending is separated from the rest of it. But we sort of, we know when we end that story that it's certainly not over, right? And yeah. So it's a good story. I was interested in it. I definitely found it a little bit spooky, especially when this boy is going through the woods and it's all dark. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, very, very well done. Well, all right. Thank you to everyone who submitted your story this week. Without y'all, we don't know what we will put in this section. So
we could just what's it called? Oh gosh,
rap?
When like scat, whatever, you know, when they make noises.
Yeah, scat.
Yeah, but I don't like the term scat because that's a sexual term.
Yeah,
a filthy sexual term. I don't like it.
True, but I mean, there's other definitions to the word. But I guess, when you say scat,
that's the one that comes to mind. There's another word too, isn't there? I don't know.
Beatboxing.
Something like that. Yeah, we can just beatbox for a while.
Yeah.
That's what we do instead. That's not a good podcast, y'all. So we appreciate your stories.
It's like a musical podcast. It's
we
like
should do a musical.
Yes.
But improv.
A doofsicle.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
But all right, we would like to say thank you to everyone who did submit your stories. So, thank you very much to Jarby Jazz.
Thank you to Flower Priest.
Thank you, Blaury345.
Thank you, Per Agalos.
Thank you, ExCaliburn.
And thank you, Calinero985.
And we would also like to say thank you to everyone who left comments. Leaving comments not only under your own story, but under someone else's story will not only compile all of your own ideas so that other people can see it, but you're providing someone else with crucial feedback that can only help them and you become a better writer.
That's right. You are participating in the transaction of a comment and critique with the hope of the same, hesitantly doing the same. I couldn't remember how the poem was, but it's good.
So, thank you very much to Jarby Jazz, ExCaliburn, Glittering Coast, Blaury345, and Flower Priest. Thank you so much for leaving comments.
Yeah, always appreciate that.
If you want to be like all of these wonderful writers and submit your story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by going to Reddit at /r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is sit down for 30 minutes and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words.
If you want to see the words as soon as they come back, and also other announcements like how this episode was a day late, you can follow us at Right Thing Cast on Twitter. You can also turn on notifications. I mean, we only tweet once a week, right? Well, except for other important notifications, like I just said, but... and it'll be a suggestion and reminder to go and write. Also on the Discord, which is free to join, we've also set up a role for people to get pinged. I think it's on Fridays, I think is when the ping happens. So that's when you get a reminder to write if you haven't already.
Exactly. And if you want to support us and everything else happening in Doof Media, you can do that by donating to the Doof Media Patreon. All you have to do is donate $5 or more per month, and you will get the possibility of voting in everything upcoming in Doof. And at the $10 level, you would get access to exclusive bonus content, including the latest episode of Doof Over.
I love how you say latest episode every time, as if like there's a new latest episode since January.
Well, yeah, but we have to keep up the illusion.
We appreciate everyone who donates at that level, because that's a lot of money. A whole $10 every single month. That's a whole Netflix. I mean, we do have like a comparable. We should start a streaming service.
Yes, because we have the infrastructure to do that.
Hell yeah! You just got to make a website, right?
A website.
I mean, when
videos.
you think about it. Doof Media, the website, doofmedia.com, is kind of already a streaming service because it's got all of your favorite shows.
That you can stream.
Exactly.
And it's a service.
It is. So all we need is an app. That's all we need.
Yeah.
And then we can charge everyone $15 a month.
So get on it, Google.
Damn right. Okay, let's get to whatever... Oh, actually, I should probably say what else is going on in Doof Media. That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked. Of course, there's always so much going on at Doof Media. Next week, actually, not this week, is the Doof Book Club. So that is... I'm excited for that. I haven't tuned in a while, and I'm really mad at myself, because several times, like, I really wanted to, and I failed. But anyway, the book for this month is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. So I'm excited to, at the very least, tune into the very beginning to even know what this story is about, because it seems that's quite a title. So... And of course, there's always so much else going on at Doof Media. If you haven't already, if you have read the Dark Tower, or have the free time to pick up the Dark Tower, go ahead and pick it up. Start reading it, and then go listen to Kingslingers, because it's a great show.
Yeah, or, hey, if you don't like reading books, the Dark Tower comic is pretty good.
Yeah, that's right. Or just, like, be spoiled and learn the entirety of Stephen King's books just from the podcast. That you could do that. And in fact, while people would shake their heads at you, I think Scott and Matt would be really interested in what that perspective is like.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I would
Especially
be.
since Stephen King books are long. And he doesn't really know how to end his books. But that's a whole different conversation.
Mm-hmm. Hey, y'all, just a little announcement that we forgot to mention in the actual meat of the podcast. We'll be choosing our story of the week a little bit differently going forward. So folks on the Discord suggested they had some works that they had been working on, Do the Right Thing stories that they'd edited, and stories outside of this, and they were wondering where to share it. So they suggested to have a thread on the subreddit. So that's what we'll be doing going forward. For every month, there'll be a different thread where you can post whatever you've been working on, whether it's Do the Right Thing, whether it's a story you've edited, or something entirely unrelated to this podcast, whatever you've been working on. We will be choosing our story that we read every week, either from a story that's submitted of a particular week or from that section, because we had like a really good story this week, but it felt really wrong and unfair to pick it because we knew that it was edited. But I would like to have edited stories read on the podcast, because I think there's more to say when there's sometimes more to say when it's like someone has edited their story, and the mistakes that are there are not because they were on a time limit, you know? So I'm hoping that this will lead to some better stories, and y'all can really show off your flair after you do your editing and such. And yeah, so let us know if you have any thoughts on this. You can send us an email, rightthingcast@gmail.com, or just mention it in the thread, and it'll be on the subreddit. So hope to see your work there. Okay, that's all I've got on Doof Media. What do we do here at the podcast? What's up? What's the next section?
Oh yeah, so on this podcast, after we talk about everything that happens in Doof, we normally go into next week's words. Thank you so much for asking what the words for next week were. Thank you very much. So the words for next week are bear, sheep, up, and exempt. Sorry.
For a second, I was really confused because you said bear, and I thought you were saying bear as in the animal, and I was like, that is not the word I rolled. What the hell? But no, it is.
Yeah, bear.
So the words are bear as in like bare naked, or to bare your arms. I think it's basically to stop hiding something or to reveal something, to show it to the world.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's all I got. You can bear arms. You can
Bare naked?
You can bare naked. That's all you need. Sheep.
Bear.
It can be. Huh? Is that the right? Oh God!
Pretty sure
which one's
is.
which? Hold on.
Pretty sure it is.
I think that might be the other bear. I'm not sure though.
That would make sense, would it?
If I search bear, it just shows me bears, and then I gotta search bear definition.
Oh no, it is the other bear. But why is it the other bear? Because the other bear is an animal. Bear,
well, I mean,
bear means naked, but bear is to carry something. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
I see. Okay.
It's
I'm wrong. You're
things.
right.
Well, I don't know. It's weird. I wasn't even sure. So, anyway, yeah, bear. The next word, sheep. So, like the animal that's covered in wool that I get confused with goats all the time.
Sheeple.
And sheeple. People who are very narcissistic think of other people as sheeple sometimes. They say, "Wake up, sheeple." Someone could be a wolf in sheep's clothing, which is that they're a bad person pretending to be a good person. Yeah, that's the animal. It's an animal.
Yeah.
You can use it like an animal. up, as in the direction that is the opposite of down.
Mm-hmm. It's a really good movie.
That's right. You could say, what's up?
Yeah, you can say up, up, and away when you go and fly off.
You can say, what's up, Doc? Do you like that one? Was that a good...
Yeah, that was pretty good. Did you know that old Looney Tunes cartoons, along with every old cartoon, is very racist?
Oh, I bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it.
Love it. The next word and last word is exempt, which is when something, a rule does not apply to a particular thing because it is exempt from that rule.
Yeah.
That's all the words. That's all I got. What's the story you're going to write, Jarvis? What's the short story that you're going to write? Let me challenge you on this. What's the short story that you're going to write?
Okay, so my short story is about a kid going to school. It's his first year at a school. He's in middle school, and he's not really having the best time. The kids are kind of mean to him, and they're really picking on him. And it's mostly because his feet are bare. You see, this kid is actually a sheep, but he's been experimented on by the government, thus turning him into a normal person. So he doesn't really need to wear clothes because sheep naturally have clothes, which is the rule. But they keep making fun of him because like, what is this? The weird ass sheep kid walking around eating my lunch? Get out of here, sheep! And then they'll punch him in the fucking face. So
damn,
he's getting
really aggressive.
Yeah, he's getting bullied really hard, which is kind of just what happens in public school. But basically,
so got 2 words.
Yeah, basically. But so what ends up happening is that he gets beaten up so often and so bad that he's actually exempt from his fifth period. His fifth period being where all of his bullies are normally
thank you for
lying.
explaining where the bullies are in fifth period.
Yeah. They're lying in a waiting for him so that they can beat him up more.
Beat him up. There you go.
Yep,
that's all
there
of
we
them.
go.
You did it. Thank you.
Yep. And he goes home. He goes to sleep. Sheep sleep.
Sheep sleep. Counting sheep.
But also when he goes to sleep, he counts humans. That's it.
Wonderful short story.
Thank you. What is your really long story?
I'm gonna tell a similar story. A sheep went to school, but it was bare naked. But because it was a sheep, it was exempt from the rule. And when it died, it went up to heaven. That's it.
Wow. All sheeps go to heaven.
All sheeps go to heaven, unless if they're naked.
Unless if they're naked. But I think being naked, especially in today's political climate, that's not really the right thing to do, personally.